Hey guys, welcome back to the TrinFx channel here. Hope everybody had a great and amazing trading week. And just gonna dive straight into it with the weekly analysis, what we have coming up, and things we could look at towards, looking at possible fundamental setups as well as technical setups on the chart. And overall, what we have coming up for this week, this new trading week that we do have coming here. And first off and foremost, I really like starting with the fundamentals, as you should know by now. So Monday, we don't have much. Yeah, just refreshing it because I don't know this with the movement down as you scroll down, you can see that I have this kind of glitch on the MyFX book, but it is what it is. All right, so on Monday we don't have much starting off, right? We do have some speech coming in, but not too much to pay attention to really cause any major movements in the market. Tuesday we do have some more news. We have home sale news for the USD, and we also have the JPY monetary policy meeting minutes. So this is something I'm really looking forward to paying attention to see what sort of movements we can get, as we do have the minutes coming out from the Japanese yen, right, for the Japanese economy. Wednesday, we have durable goods. All right, so not something I really pay attention to when it comes to the fundamental impact. Durable goods isn't something that I would say have a major impact on the overall price action movement. One thing I would pay attention to here is the gasoline stock exchange as well as retail sales for the AED. Okay, so this is something also that would affect the AED for me right now. And overall, the AED has been pretty solid, bullishly, right? So it'll be interesting to see what sort of movements we do get, as well as taking a look at the technical charts for the AED, because I do think, if I remember correctly, we did run into some key area of resistance. So we'll take a look at that, and possibly that might be the major currency that I'm looking at for this upcoming week here. Okay, so we have a pretty heavy euro day here on a Thursday. And we just kind of skimming through real quick. Wow, not really much in terms of major economic news to pay attention to. Right, for a Thursday, we do have a lot of Euro news coming out. And we also have jobless claims, initial jobless claims for the US. So if jobless claims do come out higher, that is usually viewed as bad for the US economy. We also have GDP growth looking at have an increase, but price index looking to see a decrease here. And we have Fed Chair Powell testifying, right? Sorry, our Fed Chair Powell speech, right? So this is coming out at 1600, so 4 p.m. So what sort of speech he gives here would affect the US dollar? It has been pretty bullishly overall right now. From the last set of meeting that we did get, right, we saw the Fed take a stance of, okay, currently we're going to have one more interest rate rise possibly for this year. However, we are paying close attention to labor markets and other stuff that the Fed do pay attention to in order to make any sort of policy decisions. And it was pretty bearish in tone. However, still some optimism was shown, and that's why we saw the overall increase on the dollar strength. We also have yen unemployment rate and retail sales. So these are two things that I'll pay attention to as well. On Friday, you can see we have some GDP growth news. So this is something to pay attention to. We have some more euro news, a very heavy euro week, right? We have CPI for the euro coming out at 5 a.m. And looks like, I don't understand. This is interesting. It have an actual number already, and it's the 29. So this is possibly like just an error on their part. But yeah, it shouldn't have a number here, but okay, that's what we're currently seeing. So I'm not going to question it. We'll see. Maybe tomorrow it will get resolved because that number shouldn't be there. You have the inflation rate as well as inflation rate for the month-over-month average for the euro area, right? We also have some CAD news. Wow, it's a very heavy day on Friday. Right, so we have CAD GDP news as well, and we have some PCE news for the US dollar as well, right? So a very heavy day in terms of major economic news coming out on Friday, the 29th. But I won't be trading that heavy on the Friday, right? Overall for the month thus far, we are up pretty okay. And I'm not trying to, rush any moves, especially when it comes to the ending of the week, of the trading week. Yeah, it don't make sense trying to get a set of major moves during that time on the Friday itself. I will have some price volatility. However, I do think that it is more of a riskier bet to trade or look for major movements during that period when it comes to market close, lows volume, high volatility catalyst. For price movements just means a lot of wicking will happen. Right, a lot of price action bouncing up and down and so forth. All right, so 80 CAD, and like I said, I'm paying more attention to the 80 pairs right now. 80 CAD, and first of all, let's take a look at the DXY, right? DXY overall, from the daily perspective, we can see very strong movements to the upside, right? We had instances where price tried to pull back from these major highs, and we left a really nice rejection from the downside as price continued pushing up. And you can see that we are in towards this daily target here, this daily resistance zone, where price has reached into 2 times, right, and rejected from, right, on the Friday and on the Tuesday, right? So continuing this week is whether or not we could see price continue pushing up higher and back into these major high zones, and maybe even all the way up to these highs before the year finishes. Who knows, right? But being realistic, we're paying attention to maybe price could push above this area and push into this high for this week. We do have some news catalysts, as you saw, to pay attention to when it comes to PCE price index spending and stuff like that. Those are some of the things that we need to pay attention to, as well as the overall market optimism when it comes to the US dollar, given last week's sort of news events that we did see, where the Fed was a little bit more optimistic as what they're currently seeing and what we could look forward to. Still, some little downside turns could actually occur, so we need to be wary of that and just overall pay attention to the price action movement. So for the 4 hour and the 1 hour, we can see overall price is very bullish. We do have room that price could actually pull down into. So right now, I would say this is currently where price is zoning at. All right. So we do have, room to see some sort of price movements like this, right? Price working back and forth, just bouncing back and forth between these two key areas, right? So we need to pay attention to that. Okay, here on 80 CAD, overall 80 CAD pretty much pulling to the downside, right? On the recent days, price has been going down. We could see that we did have some weekend back and forth here, and we have approached this major supportive level. All right, but overall, very strong downtrending movement currently, right? My main target area would be this area right here for some possible continuations to the downside here on 80 CAD. Taking a closer look here on the 1 hour for possible price entries. All right, so we saw that price pushed from this key area here, right? This was the supportive zone that price formed. All right, we left some movement from this area here, some weak rejections, and price pull higher. However, overall, I do think that we can possibly see some downside continuation. So this right here is one key level I would be paying attention to. You can see that price did make a push above this area right here on this bullish candle. So I would say if we're paying attention to price action movement, if price manages to pull lower, right, and we come into where this candle initially made that move to the upside here, if we manage to pull lower right into that zone, we should see a continuation of price going even lower, right? And this is sort of my take on the price action movement that we can get on 80 CAD and what I'll be looking forward to possibly seeing and making some profit off on. All right, so sort of like my entry point would be right around here. If price manages to pull lower into that zone, my stop loss would be right above this zone area. And yeah, just looking for price to continue moving downwards with the overall trend that we are seeing. All right, so this is sort of my take on the price action movement that I'm looking forward to seeing on 80 CAD. And yeah, just a continuation move to the downside overall. All right, 80 CHF and 80 JPY is, however, fundamentally different in terms of the price action movement. that has kind of been led from the AD USD. We saw the US dollar kind of weakened before the US news itself on Friday. So we did have a push on the upside, right? And you can see the price action movement. Let's just take a look at this first. Overall price is moving downwards, but just the wick rejections within these zone movements here, right? So sort of like a zone movement, price bouncing back and forth between these two key areas, right, of interest. Now, overall, same thing on AD CAD. I am more on the AD CAD side to see price continue moving down. The CAD has been more of a clearer move, showing more clearer movement rather than the US dollar, because there's a lot of things that implicate the US dollar strength that really affects it, and the price action movement in overall isn't particularly the cleanest. So I am more on the side of trading AD CAD rather than the US dollar right now. Right. AD CHF, you can see overall very strong downward movement here on the daily. However, on the 4-hour, 1-hourly, we saw that price gradually coming higher here, right? Now, from the daily perspective, we are approaching this key zone area where price could just be retesting for a continuation movement downwards. And overall, we can see that this key area, like this price action movement, has been standing pretty strongly, right? So price has been coming back and forth between these key area points of interest and continue moving with that overall downward momentum. All right. So here we shouldn't be seeing any real difference in the price action movement. It should be overall the same sort of daily movement we have been seeing, right? The same sort of trending movement that we have been seeing for the past however long. All right. So one thing as a new trader as well, you don't want to be fighting the trend. Something you always hear commonly that from traders, the trend is your friend. All right. So you want to be going with the overall trend, right? And this is something usually used by day traders and swing traders, right? They look at the higher time frame perspectives, the daily, the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hourly. And that gives you the overall general movement of price. It gives you a higher probability of seeing price move in that direction of the daily and the weekly trend, rather than looking at the 1-hour and intraday charts, right? So the 1 hour, 30 and 15 minutes. These these zones become less reliable, right, as you go down on the time frames, right? So from 30, 15 and 5 minutes, because you have a lot of price action movement within that certain span of time, and prices wicks back and forth, right? So the higher the time frame, the more reliable the zones or key zone areas you do draw up on are more reliable, right? So it's more likely to see price reject from these areas, or retest these areas to then continue its overall movement. Just a little key tip to you guys if you're new to trading and whatnot. So from the 4-hour perspective, I just think that this year, overall, likely movement, price continue to the downside. Obviously, that is what we're expecting here. At the 1-hourly and the 4-hourly perspective, right? So from the 1-hourly perspective, one thing I like to see is a clear rejection or pull below this zone, right? So you can say that this is the last zone price made as it continue with this upward movement. Now, if price does manage to close below this area, we can see, all right, bearish pressure is stepping in and look for best possible entry points. We could get into the price action movement to continue moving to the downside, right? So for me, this will be one of my target levels here. I am more of a day trader intraday rather than a swing trader. So overall, my larger zone as to where I expect price to go into is down here. That would be one of my profit target levels, as well as if price manages to close or come to the entry point here, I would be looking to get in on this trade, maybe on an earlier setup, but price to continue moving downwards. Okay, so this will be sort of my trade setup here for the AED CHF as well. And you can see overall the price action movements and what we're expecting from the AED is pretty much the downside, right? Here on AED JPY, you can see there's a bit of a difference here, right? We can see on the past recent days, prices coming into these highs right here, the AED being more so bullish currency between the two in terms of this particular cross pair, AED JPY. However, I don't want to be, okay, I'm trading, downwards on one, looking for price to go upwards on the next. No, I don't want to be doing that. So for me, AED JPY isn't something I'll be particularly looking at right now. right? Anything else? Let's take a quick look at the indices. This was one trade that we did have as well on the, sorry, on the VIP. So this was one trade really played out nicely. You see we got a 6% return on this. I did exit at 5.5% though. So 5.5% was when I called it, exiting the trade. So we exited this. This was a failure of a trade here. And JPY, this failed as well. All right, so we did have one or two trades failing, but the Euro 80 trade recovered for those failing trades. And we had the NCD card trade and USD card trade as well. So these were some of the trades that we took. You can see that USD card came all the way here, right? Started taking off some profits, so that's great. This was around 1 to 3 at this point. So yeah, we were able to get some great profits for the week, even though it was kind of up and down week, right? Just delete these drawings. All right, guys. So yeah, none else much to really pay attention to. Anything else that I'll be looking at? Possibly, maybe the indices. We could get something going, right? On US 30 and well, NAS100, you can see that price overall has pulled to the downside here the past couple of days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Price has been pulling downwards here, but we are coming to some key areas of possible supportive zones, right? So you can say right around here as price approach this area, if the next candle or daily candle I should say manages to close above this zone, we should see a continuation back into these previous levels. Now again, with the indices and when you're looking at stuff like US 30, NAS 100, S&P 500, the US dollar strength does play a lot into the movement of these particular assets that you will be paying attention to, right? So you need to be aware of the dollar strength itself as it would affect the overall movement from these markets. All right. So one thing I'll say to pay attention into, particularly if price manages to close above this zone, you can see multiple price reaction at this key level here. If price manages to close above that level, then we should see continuation moving higher, and we could even come back into these previous highs all the way up here. I would say on this certain particular pair, right, you have some key areas for price to reapproach, right? So this would be like, okay, TP1, TP2, TP3, if that's what you want to call it, or areas where you can see price reach into, see some rejections before it continues moving up, or you could actually get into scaling more into the trade at these key areas. So if price manages to pull above this zone, this is a possible entry point for price to continue moving higher and so forth. This could be a next possible entry point for price to continue moving higher right here into this zone here. So like that, this could be another key particular area. So these would be sort of like trade movements that you can get from the overall price action move, saying if all right, if price does manage to go above this zone, then we want to see a continuation movement. These are some of the key areas where you could get into for price to continue moving up. All right, and this is zones that you could possibly look into. So US 30, we could get that sort of movements if we see price reapproach this level close above. That bullish continuation seems like a high probability trade setup, especially if on Wednesday, all right, sorry, the Thursday, we get the Fed Powell speech. If he says something a little bit more on the negative side, right, or at least what markets don't want to hear, if he talks about recessionary fears and stuff like that, that obviously would impact the US dollar strength, and you'll see a turnover on that and see price continue moving higher. All right, if we talk about interest rates as well increasing, that may actually cause some upside movement on the USDT and stuff like that. All right, besides that, not much else. I'm not paying attention to gold right now, guys, because I mean, the gold movement itself has been kind of choppy. All right, just take a look at it right here on a daily perspective. So, I really don't want to get myself involved in price action movements such as that. All right, besides that, we'll see as the week does continue what new setups we do get and possible continuations. Here on GBP CAD, really strong downtrend movement. Watch that. That's insane. Watch how, like, this is one of the most the cleanest chart that you could ever, like, possibly imagine to see. Watch that. That's insane. Yeah, no, this is a very interesting chart to see how strongly the GBP is being overly just pushed all the way down. All right. I didn't even notice it before until now, to be honest with you guys. So in terms of the GBP cross pairs, it does look like overall the price action is pretty much the downside. Sell continuation seems to be the highly more probable setups to be paying attention to on these particular pairs. So something like this, GP80, possibly if price comes back into this level, could see price continue moving downwards. Again, I don't want to confuse, like, all right, in terms of GP80, you're looking at this, you're buying in favor of the 80, but yet you're selling something like 80 CAD, right? So I don't really like mixing my pairs like that. So I would look at things in similarity to each other. So maybe on GBP CAD, if we could see some sort of retracement, right? Overall, we do have a clear directional bias. So if price does manage to retrace back into these levels, then okay, you're looking to see sell continuations, and that is what I'm particularly basing this week and just the remainder of this month in terms of my trading style on. And yeah, just trying to focus on those key movements and to where price will come back into possible directional, more clearer directional bias as well, right? Instead of mixing it, you're buying and selling one asset, and then you're selling and buying on the other one in favor of the asset that was selling before and so forth. All right, guys. So that is it right now for this weekly analysis. Really not much to say. We're just going on with the price action continuations, right? And this is part of where you want to be a part of the hood. All right. Really, when you think about it, the hood drives the market. So the more assets you do have being pushed in one direction is where you see the market movement being directed towards. And you want to be with that movement. All right. So it's not having a hood mentality, but rather understanding what is going on and being a part of the flock without the flock mentality, right? So yeah, that's it for this weekly analysis, guys. Hopefully you guys got some value off of this, and let me know in the comments what are you looking at in particularly for this upcoming week, as well as leave a like, subscribe if not already subscribed. Really helps out the channel when you leave a like. And you know, it gets put this video to the YouTube algorithm for more people to reach it. All right, guys, and I'll see you Monday as we do join in on the New York session. So thank you very much. Everybody have a great weekend, and I hope everybody has a great trading week upcoming. Peace.